How would you spend 5K? Hey guys, my situation is as follows. I live in my parents' home. At the end of November, I'll have 5K in my savings. Now 4K. Nice, man. I'm going to quit my apprenticeship 9 to 5 job at the end of this month, working at a supermarket. Already posted 7 videos on YouTube and 2 reels on Instagram. Made about €150 from reselling clothes. Have 2 friends on self-improvement and a 7 out of 10 physique. I know I have nothing left to lose, and a few opportunities are coming to my mind right now. So how would we spend 5K? If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment in the description what you'd recommend to Nino. Because I want to leave my country and travel to Bali next year in autumn so that I can grind on my business, on my personal brand. I think one of the best uses of money are the 2 things I actually did when I was a bit younger. Number 1, using your savings to give you basically time for your normal life expenses so that you don't need to work a job and then you can build a business in that time. For example, if you've got like 1K saved, 2, 3K saved, and you are living with your parents and you're working a job, you can quit that job and still pay your expenses, which will probably be fairly low. Maybe you give like €100 to your family. Maybe you spend like a €200 on like gym, protein, phone contract, whatever. And technically, that's almost like a year of runway. Like, you don't need to work a job again for maybe about like a year, maybe 6 months. So for 6 months, you can work full time on the business. You don't even need the job. The best use of the savings that you have as a young man is basically not needing a job and just having a few months or a year or so of runway. And you actually need way less than you realize for this. Like, if you live at home with your parents, you might only need like 100, €200 a month, which is fucking nothing. I speak to some guys who literally tell me like, oh, Hamza, do you think I'm ready to like quit my job and, be able to build a business? And I'll ask them for details and they'll say like, yeah, like, I've got like £25,000 saved up. And yeah, I live with my parents. You could probably live off that for like 5 years, maybe even longer. The biggest ROI you're going to get with your money is being able to not have a job and then spend full time on the thing you actually want to build up. And I'm telling you, you'll get there way quicker than you realize. If you live at home with your parents, you quite literally only need like a few $100, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000, and you've got months, even a year of runway that you can just go full time on the business. It is the time spent at the job that will completely destroy your productivity in the sort of business or the career or the big thing you want to build up. So that's like investment number 1. Save up money so that you can leave the job and you can work full time on your dream. Investment number 2, change environments. So being able to be at home and build up the business is awesome, and I would rinse that out for like 6 months, 12 months, whatever. But also being able to save up money and also start making money online and then go and spend that so that you are basically moving out of your parents' home, but not just like, a mile away from your parents' home, because then you're basically in just the same city, but you've got your own place. And a lot of guys do that just because they're like, oh, well, I want some privacy. In other words, they just want to have sex with some girls. What I would recommend is don't just move to like a different part in your hometown and don't just move to like a different city in your country. Move to the type of place where people like you move to, which for people like us, like young people on self-improvement, discipline, into health and fitness, those kinds of things, Bali is the best place I've found in my entire life so far. Dubai is kind of similar, but Dubai is kind of like a one-dimensional Bali in the sense that it's just where you go if you just want to make money. Bali is like for the people who want to make money, but also are really into health and fitness at the same time. So it seems to suit people like us really, really well. The only question now is, what should I do until then, and what can I do with the 5K? Yeah, I would leave the job as fast as possible, which is what you're already doing, which is awesome. And I would basically, if you're planning to move like sometime next year in a few months or so, or 6 months or whatever, I would just basically just save the money right now, use it slowly for your expenses to live at home without the job. Okay, you'll spend 100, 200, whatever. You're not really spending it much. And I would just work really hard on the business and hopefully get it to the point where you're making 1 or 2K a month. And when you eventually move next year or you travel, then you've got a business that's making money and you also have your savings at the same time. Because I'll get kicked out of home if I quit my job and do nothing else other than YouTube. And so one plan would be to get a sales job where I can learn a few skills and earn more money to save up, potentially get kicked out of my parents' home anyway, so I have to rent an apartment. I would say that getting another job is one of the worst things you could do right now. When you're young, look, you're going to disagree with me. Everyone who's watching on YouTube is going to disagree with me, but I promise you this is the truth. When you're young, it's not actually money that's going to save your life. Like, if you just had 5K in your bank account, 10K in your bank account, that sounds awesome. Like, that's crazy. But the thing is, it's actually not going to change your life so much. It is income that's going to change your life. There's a difference. Just having savings is actually not as hyped up as it is. Because if you've got 10K in your account right now, and if you go and move out somewhere, whatever, eventually you just rinse through it and you've lost it. The big thing when you're young is to build something that gives you consistent income, and that's something like, that career or business is something you actually enjoy, that you can develop, that feels purposeful and fulfilling to you. The single biggest priority of your life when it comes to money and work should be to basically just build what your dream sort of career or business is and get the income from that. It should not be to work some job you don't really care about just to save up money, because money is, I promise you, please just believe me when I say this, money is like 10 times less important than you think it is. Like overall, money is important, don't get me wrong. But money when you're young, it's not cash in the bank that changes your life. It's income consistently coming from your dream career or business that you don't want to sort of get rid of. So a lot of young guys will ask me, okay, I've got this dream. I want to be like a YouTuber, or I want to have this career, whatever. Should I work a shitty job on the long side so I can save up money? And I always say, no, like you don't actually need much money right now. What you need is to just fully focus on the business. So let's say for Nino, he wants to be like a YouTuber, right? So for him, he needs to literally simplify his life and literally only work on YouTube and just get ideas for YouTube. When you have two businesses, or you have a business and a career, you'll do worse in both. And you might think, okay, well, I can get this job and then, I can save up some money. But that's going to be so insignificant compared to you just getting up to 1 or 2K a month in your big dream business. That's going to change your life forever. That's the business you actually want to carry on for the future. This is like some bullshit. So this is the equivalent of, for example, YouTube is like your wife. This little extra job is like a hoe. Yeah, you can go have some fun with this hoe and it feels like it's kind of fun and valuable, whatever. But like the big thing's your fucking wife that you're gonna have children with. The big thing is like your dream fucking partner you're going to have children with and the family with. That's the thing that you push forward for the future. This is like the short-term thing that seems valuable right now that you can do, which most people would do because it's, you'll get some kind of results from it right now. But it's building the dream that will change your life. Getting a job, knowing that you're going to leave that job because it's not the thing you actually want to do. All you get from that job is what? It's the money you save in the bank. And so, okay, you've worked this job for 6 months, you save 5K in the bank. Extra 5K is not going to change your life. It's really not. You can't really move out with that because, rent's going to be $500, $1,000, $1,500. And you're not even going to be able to pay for like 6 months up front. Like, what's going to change your life is just building up the dream career or business. And the best way to do that is to have no other work on your plate. So if you're young and you're debating sort of, money and business, what I always say is just do the same thing that I did. Save up a bit of money, live with your parents, leave the job, and then you have a few £100, few $100, whatever, maybe 500, 1,000, whatever, and you just live off that whilst you just go full time and you only work on the dream, whether it's some dream career you need to study for or train for, whatever, or it's some dream business. You only work on that. Getting a job just to save up money, just to like have money in the bank account's nowhere near as valuable as people think it is. It's the consistent income that comes from the dream career. Or I can leave my parents' home and split with a self-improvement friend rent. One is in school, the other one also in a job. So we have our own place and grind together. Or the last option would be, best case scenario, to work a 0-hour contract job, Lee Fernando, for only 15 hours a week, record as much videos as possible while staying in the home, and then travel to Bali and going all in. So it gets complicated because if you think your parents will like kick you out if you don't have a job, which is like, a lot of parents are like this. Is like, I understand why. You've got to understand your parents' perspective. They let's be honest. You have smelt like cum for the last 10 years. Like your room has literally had a smell of like spunk. And your dad, every single time he heard you like shouting and tapping on your video games, he thought to himself that he's raised a little bitch, honestly. Like our parents don't really say this to us. Most parents don't say this to their children. But this is how, like they literally, for the 10 years straight, our parents probably thought, holy shit, I've got such a pussy for a son. Like they knew we were chronic fappers, chronic video gamers. They knew how lazy we were. So now when you say, oh, but guys, I'm going to become a millionaire, and I'm going to work on my business. It's just yap. And when they see you on your computer working, they're not really looking at the screen, whatever. To them, they just see it as like, oh yeah, he's playing video games. Even, for us, it's obvious you're not on video games. You're like, right now I'm on this website, for example. But for like parents, they don't really, it's not obvious for them, right? If they see you sat down on the computer, they don't look at the screen to see if it's games or if it's a website or if it's education. They just always remember you being a fucking dirty little gamer. So whenever you're on the computer, whenever you're locked in your room, they see you as a gamer gooner. So now when you say, oh, no, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire. Like when you say this and you're locked in your room, they still think you're a gamer gooner. So now when you tell them like, okay, well, I don't really want to work a job. I'm just going to work on the business. Of course, they don't trust you. Of course they don't, because you don't really deserve their trust. So to this, the best case scenario is actually one of the options you've not listed, which is to get the trust of your parents. So this is how I did it, because I was like I'm the youngest in our family. And I was also like the most fucking, like weak, whatever, compared to like my brother as well. So my parents always saw me as like just, the stupid little kid. He just games and shouts on this computer or whatever. I moved to university. So there was a time when like basically they didn't see me much, but I was still basically a little DJ. But when I finally moved back home, I knew that I was going to go serious on this. And I knew that I was going to go full time onto YouTube. I spoke to them in such a different way because I had this direction. I was not looking for their validation. I was not looking for their input. When my mom, like I moved back home after a few years of being at university, and my mom said, okay, like, you finished university. What do you want to do now? Instead of speaking to her like a baby, like no offense, how you probably would speak to your mother, where you say like, oh, well, I'm thinking about starting YouTube, which in other words translates to, Goo goo gaga goo goo, do you think it's a good idea for me to be a YouTuber, mommy? And also, can you make me some eggs? You sound like a bitch, right? When you say to your parents, like, I'm thinking about being a YouTuber, what they hear is like, I'm still a little baby. When my mom said, okay, you finished university, what do you want to do now? And I looked at her and I said, I'm going to be a YouTuber. She went, oh, like she went like she almost pulled that kind of face, like almost like, oh, okay, oh, like YouTube, okay, you know what you're doing. The next day I woke up with 18 new subscribers. I went from 40 subscribers that took me fucking months to get to 120 in one day. I checked the comments and there was so many comments from people saying things like, oh, hey bro, it's your cousin from Pakistan. I'm from the village. Your dad sent me your link. Hi, it's this person. Like basically my family members, my extended family, my parents had sent my YouTube channel to everyone that they knew because they supported me. And I'm sure that one of the biggest reasons why this happened, instead of, them looking at me and saying, watch, just get a proper job, is because I didn't speak to them like a baby like most of us do. When you look to your parents and you speak like a little bitch and you say like, I'm thinking about becoming a YouTuber, you sound like a bitch. You sound like such a little baby. You need to speak to them like you're a fucking adult, like you're a man who's already made your decision. And even if they kick you out, you're still going to stick to the decision. I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm posting YouTube videos. I'm building this business. If they say, no, what, get a proper job? You say, no, this is what I'm going to do. No, get a proper job. No, if you don't get a proper job, I'll kick you out. I hope you don't kick me out, but I'm going to be a YouTuber. Just say this. And look, maybe they'll kick you out and then you deal with it. You figure it out. It's great that for Nino, he saved up money already. Maybe then, okay, that's bullshit. That's like chaotic. Okay, you're going to have to go get a job and deal with it and move with a friend. Okay, sure. But at least before you try anything else, try this. What I found is our parents are not as unreasonable as we think they are. It's because from their perspective, we are still little babies. Like no one really taught us how to speak like a man. When you speak to your parents like a little baby, you come downstairs and only talk about your sort of needs for survival. Mama, can you make me some eggs, please? Like the only time you speak to them is literally like a fucking baby, like a goo goo gaga, I need some eggs, I need some nutrition, can you take me to the school? You only speak to them for survival needs. Of course, they see you as like a fucking little baby. When you sit down next to your dad and you ask him like a deep question, instead of just, oh, can you help me with this? Can you take me to the school, please? Instead of like you speak to them like fucking adults, right? When you speak to your parents like an adult, they'll start to respect you and they'll actually believe you when you say shit, especially if they have started to see you physically like doing things. Like, for example, if they see you physically working out, usually parents start to respect you more, especially with more like endurance style workout. So if your parents see you randomly doing push-ups or skipping or something outside, I found that their respect for you skyrockets compared to like weightlifting in the gym, whatever. Running is the same thing. If your parents see you going out for a run every day, it's raining and you still go, they'll be like, "What? Why are you going? No, don't go. Well, it's raining, or you'll get wet." No, no, no. And you say, "No, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm disciplined. I'm going to go anyway." And you go. They'll be pissed off at you, but a little bit of them will think, "Oh shit, he's not my baby boy anymore." You need to like take their souls, like David Goggins style. You need to just like kill their image of their baby boy and show them that you're a fucking man now. If your parents act like this towards you, it is not their fault. It's because you are still acting like a little baby. I bet if I was like there in the room with you when they speak to you, I would see it like someone like, your friend, we would see it so clearly that you speak like a fucking child to them. Oh, well, I'm thinking about starting YouTube because, there's this one guy and he makes a lot of money from YouTube. I'm thinking about it. I'm just thinking about it. Oh, well, I want to try YouTube. I want to try the. Yeah, I posted a few videos. Like, you're just speaking like you're so soft. Speak like you're a fucking adult. Speak like you would speak to another fucking, like, adult male, like a friend of yours. Like a new person you meet, where you handshake them firmly. And they say, "Oh, nice to meet you, bro. My name's Alex. What's your name?" "Oh, my name's Hamza. What are you doing here, bro?" "Oh, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm a YouTuber." I don't say to, like, when someone introduces, "Oh, I'm thinking about posting to YouTube sometimes." Like, you speak like a fucking bitch. When you speak with, like, as an adult, your parents will respect you more. I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, most parents are actually not as unreasonable as we little baby boys think they are. So that's what I would recommend. That's the best case scenario, is you speak to them, you get their respect, and then you can basically live in the home and go full time on YouTube without a separate job. That's the best case scenario. The second best case scenario, if they absolutely force you to get a job, yeah, go and get like the 0 hour contract and do like as minimum hours as possible, but still focus on YouTube as much as possible. And it doesn't necessarily have to be YouTube. It's just for Nino here. That's the case. For anyone who's watching this on YouTube, comment below if you agree or disagree with my advice. And let's see what Caden has said. He's recorded a video for Nino. This is what's really nice about our community. You can literally just get like, you can ask such a deep, specific question and you get people who come reply back. And, Caden's recorded like a 3-minute video giving him advice. He just said, "It would really help me if you guys have any ideas because I feel like I'm lost. Also, a quote that really inspires and motivates me: is it truly a risk if the risk is leaving behind a life that you never wanted to live anyway?" Let's see what Caden said.
So, Neo, what are you going to do? So you said you got 4K, you're going to quit your apprenticeship. So firstly, I would say, is your apprenticeship making you sad? Like working in a supermarket? I guess you just want more time working in your business. And I'm fully down with that. So I would say, fucking go for it. If my job weren't aligned to me, I would have already quit it already. Like, I wanted to quit it before, but basically I'm in a contract, so I can't quit it. But the thing is, you can go to Bali and the flight's going to cost like probably just under, like, let's just do it right now. So New York, if you're going to buy a flight, you always go here. You always go incognito mode. Fucking hell, I can't speak. You always go incognito mode, porn mode, because it's going to be the cheapest on here. If you keep on looking
You always go into porn mode. This is a good tip, actually, what Caden's saying. If you're ever going to buy a flight, make sure you open the incognito tab, because it'll often be cheaper if you go on your normal tab, they track it, with cookies, like you've heard, click on the accepted cookies, whatever. When a flight company, including like Skyscanner, whenever they notice and they've got cookies on your browser that you've been looking at flights, they'll just randomly increase the fucking price, which should be criminal. But yeah, just a quick tip if you're ever buying flights.
On anything else, the price actually goes up. So let's say you go Skyscanner, and I don't know where you're from. The cheap flights to Bali are only from Australia. Everywhere else, right, they're like $1,000 or something. So let's just say Bali. I'm not pretty sure where you're from, but it will be the same place. Let's just say you go from the 17th to 30th. Yeah, that's like 2. Right. Oh, boy, what the fuck? What? That's very cheap. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that at all. I don't know why they're cheap. So when I was looking before, they were like $1,000 and something. That's under a factor. Like, you're going to be put under stress point to make money. And you could do that. That's option 1. You can do that. Or you can just spend the 5K. You could keep, option 2 is leave your job and then spend the 5K in basically everything, like everything what Hamza puts out. What I do, I've got a job in the British Army, and I invest, like, I came back for 6 month employment, and I came back with bank account full. I have like over 5K in my bank, a lot of money just sat there. And do you know what? Everyone got like nice cars and stuff. It would be nice to have a nice car, but it's like I spent all my money basically back into myself, into my YouTube videos. So if you see right now, I've literally got a thumbnail artist, I've got an editor, and these help you videos.
That's great advice as well. If you've got some money saved up, spending it on your business, like for example, Nino said he wants to be a YouTuber, right? So Caden's advice here to him is, Caden is quite literally, you can see on his browser tab, he's quite literally hiring a video editor right now. He's one of my like sort of clients as well, so I help Caden with his YouTube channel. So I told him, okay, go find a cheaper editor right now. So he's going to go hire one.
So much. I'm
And
telling you, the stress.
that's a great use of money. Look, if you're trying to be like a YouTuber or something, you've got some money saved up, then buying like a decent camera, if you don't have like a good iPhone right now to record on, buying the microphone, having an editor, thumbnail guy, suddenly your YouTube channel's just got way more to the next level. Buying mentorships and programs and stuff can be really nice. Look, I'm biased, but if Nino wants to be a YouTuber, I literally have a community where I teach people to be YouTubers. And maybe he wants to consider this. It's only $250 to join this as well, so maybe he wants to consider that. But those kinds of things, there's very high ROI to spending the money basically on your own business that then will help you to make money from the business faster. Like, for example, if you want to be like a YouTuber and you have a few $100s or $1,000 saved up, some of the best thing you can actually do, and I'm biased, so maybe you don't fully trust me when I say this, but probably the best thing you can do is pay another YouTuber to give you advice and to look at your videos and to help you grow and to teach you like what your script should be like, whatever. And that's fucking really high ROI. Really, like I say that, of course I'm biased because I sell a fucking program like that, but I see the results that my own students get in that program. For a few $100s, you get like the equivalence of mentorship from a guy with millions of followers who's made millions of dollars from YouTube. So that's another thing that I would spend. So my advice to Nino is I would spend some of this money on his YouTube journey. I'd potentially get a camera or an iPhone and the microphone and whatever. I would get like an editor, maybe a thumbnail guy, or maybe I'd just make my thumbnails myself, like nice and simple or something. And I would save up quite a lot of this money and I would just go all in on just working on YouTube, get obsessed with it. And I would just try and convince my parents that that's what I'm doing full time, and hopefully they don't force me to get a job. If they force me to get a job, I just get like one of those part-time jobs, whatever. Or honestly, if they force me to get a job, if I had a pair of balls, I probably wouldn't have done this when I was young. But if you've got a bigger pair of balls than I did when I was like 19 years old, what I probably would suggest, which is going to sound a bit snaky, is if your parents say no, you have to get a job, you can't do business, but you know that this is your dream, I would tell them that you've got a job. And every day I would leave the house and just go work somewhere. Just go to some co-working space, just go to like some office space, some cafe that you can work at. You record videos like outside in nature and then you go edit the videos in the cafe or something like that. Just pretend you've got a job. Sounds kind of crazy. Oh my God, whatever. But it's honestly going to be like one of the funniest stories that you end up telling, like, and your family always laugh every time you tell it. Like you convinced them that you had a job when you didn't. It's going to be a really funny story. It just requires like a bit of fucking balls, but it's not that big of a deal. Okay. If they find out that you lied to them, they'll shout at you. But also parents like this, they often just shout at you almost every day for fucking any reason anyway. So you may as well just work on the dream rather than spending 20, 40 hours a week on a job that you don't really give a shit about when you have a specific business you want to build. So that's what I would recommend to Nino. For everyone else who's watching this on YouTube, leave a comment what you'd recommend to him as well. I'm sure he'll see the comments below this video. And if you haven't already, just check out the top link in the description to join our community. You can ask for advice like this, like we've just helped Nino there. Every now and then I reply to the guys with a full fucking custom video, which is really valuable when you think about it. You can hop on calls with guys right now. There's classroom section. We've got courses in here. I used to sell each one of these courses for like hundreds of dollars, but you just get them inside of the community. It's a fucking awesome place to be. So you can consider joining if you want. Goodbye.